What brought you to America?
I think maybe we should go back a little bit because Hong Kong is really where my health took a turn.
Welcome to Going Nowhere, the podcast about building a CPG business, raising two babies, and somehow surviving the madness in between.
Well, welcome to the first episode of the Going Nowhere podcast. This
It's
is
been, what,
a long time coming.
6 years in the making?
You've got now a person in the wrong side of 40. You've got a person on the right side of 30. You've got parents of two young kids, a business that needs just as much, if not as much, attention. Episode 1 of the Going Nowhere podcast begins. Honey, do you want to introduce yourself?
I am the other half of Nowhere Bakery, Saphira Rosti. We are obviously married, coming on 10 years
Crazy.
married. That's gone by way too quick. We are 6 years into this business. I've been through, I would say, quite a few different careers and countries. But just to really dial it back, let's go back to my childhood. I grew up in New Zealand, and my parents were, I would say, not the most conventional people. They were what you would call right now the crunchy parents. I remember my dad would give me flaxseed oil in the morning as a supplement. Growing up in this household, my parents were into the healthier food. They didn't let us have things like chocolate. We would be given things like carob. They also were entrepreneurs. And so I grew up with this notion that you don't go to an office and work a 9-to-5 job, because how boring is that? My parents wanted the freedom to stay at home with us kids. I'm one of 3, and build a business on their own terms. And so I think I had that mentality kind of ingrained in me from the get-go. However, I will say the healthy lifestyle perspective was not ingrained in me from the get-go. I almost rebelled against that, and I preferred things like McDonald's and Snicker bars and anything that was sweet. And I think my sweet tooth, even at the beginning being something of a detriment to my health, is really what drove the start of this business. And not to jump ahead just yet, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
You know, I think as a parent now, looking at 2 kids and knowing that we have to raise them the same but different, and having Teo now who's 3, and then we have a new baby who's, obviously getting a lot of attention, but he still gets a lot of attention. You're a part of 3. So the first one is the baby. It's the master, the brainchild. Everything is all about him, and which is relatable for us because we have so many pictures of him and we have so little pictures of her. Then you come, and then shortly after, your sister comes. So you kind of get overlooked where, your brother was the first, got the most attention. And then you have your sister coming in, who then is the baby who's going to get a lot of attention. So what's it like? I mean, what was it like being the second child?
All I remember is I just wanted to be easy. And I don't remember ever throwing tantrums. I don't remember ever being in trouble. My mom will tell me time and time again how much of an easy baby I was. And just to put into perspective, she had me to our birth at home. She told me that she was off to work the next day. She brought me in the car seat, put me under the table, whether it was at night or in the morning. They just took me everywhere, and she said that I would just sleep wherever they would take me, which makes me laugh because that's really what we're doing to our second-born Zealand right now, as we're in such a turmoil part of our business.
Yeah.
She just comes along with us wherever we need her.
So I don't have the perspective of growing up in New Zealand, but I've been there enough to know that it's a very laid back, chill island nation. You have natives who are Maoris, and you have, I wouldn't say a colonization, but an influx of the English, the British, who have also taken ownership of the country, the land. So you have this kind of mix of population, but to me, it's always been harmonious. I find it very peaceful and very loving, but it's very blue collar. And I want to know, what that was like as a kid. Did you have your brother in school with you? Did you have your sister in school with you? Were you always like in another class where it didn't really matter? Because I didn't have an older brother to kind of set the path for me and say, take care of this one. This guy is cool because I'm cool. Did you get any of that?
Not at all. My brother dropped out of school at the age of 13. He had some issues with bullying and even learning. He has ADHD. So he was a very hands-on guy and decided to go down the path of like building cars and doing mechanic work. So he didn't feel like he even needed school. That was a big point of contention for the house. But I was kind of on my own in terms of going to high school. I didn't have a big brother to look after me. My sister actually went to a different school than me. So I really was on my own. And a lot of my teenage years, and I would say even my 20s as well, bit of a lone horse or lone, what do you call it? Lone wolf?
Wolf, that's right.
A lone wolf. And so being the middle child, I think I just learned to just be self-sufficient, and that self-sufficientness really like helped me in my later years.
Besides being extremely beautiful, what inspired you to want to be a model when you see the way people live, that's not part of their thinking?
I think with most things in my life, everything is done on a decision that I just decide. I just decided I wanted to become a model. I was in the height of my career as a fashion buyer. I was 21, the youngest person in the room at Guess Australia. I was the national buyer for their apparel line, traveling the world, buying for the country, and just decided one day, I was like, you know what, I'm going to be a model. And so I took some Polaroids, went to a casting call at an agency down the road. They had a casting agent from Asia. And so I went really last minute. I didn't even have shoes. I didn't have a book. I just had some photos that I took at the office. I turn up, borrow some shoes from another girl who were 2 sizes too big, did a catwalk, took some photos, and then 2 weeks later I get a phone call saying, can you go to Shanghai in a month? And I was like, all right, let's do it. So I quit my job and spent 3 months in Shanghai.
Was there a thrill? Did you feel some kind of energy going through you when you got a call like that? Did you see what your next stage of your life would look like? Or did you just say, opportunity, maybe it's a one-off, here we go?
Yeah, I think during that time, you're in your early 20s, anything goes at that time. I was down for anything when it came to life experience. I was living in a new country, had moved to Australia, didn't really know anybody. And so I was just diving in head first. And the opportunity to live in Shanghai just felt so exciting and so foreign. And there were so many unknowns. I remember when I arrived there, it was probably midnight on a Saturday. And I'm just following this random Chinese guy through this dark city. And he doesn't speak a lick of English. He drops my suitcase in this model apartment with 8 other beds there. And he said, bye. And I'm like, all right, how do I do this?
I'm almost sure every story starts, and every new country starts at night with a weird smell and a place that is foreign regardless, but then it's also dark so you can't see. I have so many stories like that too. Okay, so you get to Shanghai, you're super young, no one there, you're in a new profession, you have probably no idea when your next meal is going to be, let alone where you're going to sleep and do, and how are you going to kind of navigate this space without knowing a lick of Chinese. So what was day one like?
Well, I can tell you what the night one was like. I get there and everyone is out because it's a Saturday night. So everyone's at the club. I just get told which bed I'm in, and it looks as though these sheets are about 20 years old. Every other model before me has lived in them. I'm pretty sure I'm getting bed bugs at this point. I try to sleep. I wake up in the morning and I Google the nearest, like, is there an IKEA? Is there some kind of like home goods store? Like, where can I get some cutlery? Where can I get some bedding, a pillow, anything? That was my first point of call. I got a taxi to go do all of that. And then you basically get a phone and a text, and it's like, be downstairs, 9 a.m. Monday, and you're getting in a van and you're off to castings.
Wild. And how long were you there?
I was there for 3 months. And then from there, it really catapulted the career, and I hip hopped around different Asian countries. I went to Singapore after that, and then Hong Kong.
So you crushed as a model. You were obviously a really great buyer, being so young and having that kind of corporate structure. So you have these two really great life experiences and amazing stories and amazing youth. What brought you to America?
I think maybe we should go back a little bit, because Hong Kong is really where my health took a turn.
Mm-hmm.
So I was living in this 100 square foot apartment with 4 other girls. And there was a girl from Estonia, and she was the picture of health, glowing from the inside out, eating really healthy. And up until this point, I was eating McDonald's every night, eating a lot of junk food, not looking after my health at all. And I was starting to feel the effects of that. And so I'm looking at this girl and I'm like, how does she have this so figured out? She seems like she's eating really well. She's got a great body. She's got great skin. What are you doing? And so I really looked at her and studied her, and she was eating things like banana ice cream, which at the time, this was like 2010, this was revolutionary. It's like, I would think what cottage cheese ice cream is now is what banana ice cream is or was, in 2010. That's really where I started to realize that you could eat healthy desserts and feel satisfied and not have the after effects of what, a Ben & Jerry's ice cream would be like. And so I got into the kitchen in this Hong Kong model apartment and started doing fun videos with my flatmate. And we made a YouTube channel. It's called Nourished Bones. At that time, there were no apps to edit videos, so I learned how to edit on Final Cut Pro on my laptop. And we made probably 3 videos total until we got over it.
Easy to do. That's the other thing as well. I think people should really reflect on is a lot of these podcasts that I was mentioning earlier is that people will make it sound like it's so easy. And when you get into rhythm, sometimes it is, but it's actually really hard. To do things every single day is really hard. Show up really hard. Edit really hard. When people aren't watching and you have 6 views, something that you worked on for 6 months, really hard. So I applaud you for trying that. I know you and the way you are. You do an amazing job teaching yourself when you don't know something. Mm-hmm. And when you set your mind to something, I know there's a DJ story that we probably missed as well, but I learned that, you wanted to be a DJ, so you learn how to do that yourself. And you built our own website. You continue to, do a lot of marketing stuff for us and YouTube stuff for us, or whatever it is, you find a way to do it. It's incredible. It's a testament to how strong of a mind you have. Mm-hmm. And when you put yourself in that position, you really kind of go after it and find a way to be the best at it. So, by the way, what was the Estonian girl's deal? Like, why was she eating so clean, and why was she so good?
I just put it down to being in Europe. I don't know, honestly. She just had her SHIT together.
Yeah.
Whereas everyone else was living on 1 can of tuna or just straight junk food. She wasn't restricting. She was eating clean food. Really what the notion is now. She was just, I think, way ahead of her time.
So your mind is blown. You're on a new perspective. You probably start to appreciate your parents and what they were trying to do a long time ago. Was it too late? Had you already fallen to the trap of stomach illnesses and
Oh, yeah. I think actually, going back to Shanghai, there was a running joke that when you came to Shanghai, you got like Shanghai belly. Water is not clean there. So I think that my stomach issues started then and it just got worse and worse. But my diet leading up to that did not help. I started to notice I was getting bloated more and I couldn't tolerate a lot of foods. And it got so bad to the point where I couldn't even eat something like garlic without feeling like I had a reaction. It got so bad when I finally moved to America that you can kind of speak to. We couldn't eat out, couldn't eat things like even an apple without having some kind of pain. And so I got into quite a dark place at that time because I didn't really know what was going on. I also wasn't getting my period, which I had lost, I would say, for about 5 or 6 years. And I went to multiple doctors about it, and they just pinned it down to stress, which I couldn't really understand why because I didn't feel stressed. But looking back, I know I was putting my body under stress by not eating right, working out too much, traveling.
I could definitely remember that vividly. And when we met, how clean you ate, that was inspiring to me. I had friends that ate really clean. I had friends that ate really dirty. Um, and I always respected your, I think, determined mindset to, this is how it's going to be and you're not going to bend. And I love that. I love people that don't bend. I think that's really inspiring. And I always try to model myself around that. And I want to have that kind of strength. And I remember the banana ice creams as well. I'd never seen that, and you were all about that. So now I understand where it comes from. We're in LA. We live in one of the top food cities in the world, except we can't take advantage of it because you are literally allergic to everything. Garlic is in everything. And I'm wondering what's going on. I don't know much about these kinds of issues. I've never had any issues. I don't know what, stomach pain is, and I'm eating anything. I mean, anything and everything. I could eat really dirty for a long time and not know any different. Otherwise, other than like, yeah, I can easily get fat. And so I've yin yanged a lot as well. And so I live in like the all in lifestyle. So I'll go cold and not have soda or chocolate or whatever, is dragging me down. I think chips is probably my biggest vice, chips and chocolate. So I meet you, you're really clean. I'm inspired by that, but I'm also not loving the lonely world of that food, that culinary at that moment offering because it all kind of sucked. But I'm interested. I should also say it wasn't just food. You also didn't love that I had a TV in my room. So you got rid of that really fast. You didn't love perfume. You got rid of that really fast. I think I had probably 100 colognes or something. You
You
didn't
can
love.
tell us. Why don't you tell a story that you
Oh
love
my
to
God.
tell?
All right, so here's one of the greatest stories. I'm walking away. I don't know if I'm walking back from work or something. Sapphire's living in my apartment at the time, and and I used to worked in fashion, and so I collected a lot of things that I wanted then, but I also wanted in the future. And one of the things that I loved the most was Molton Brown soap, and this soap was in the highest of end hotels, and it smelled so good, and it was so expensive. At the time, it was $35 a bottle for a soap, which now is nothing, but at that time it was a lot of money. And I had built up quite the collection. So I have these beautiful soaps, and in some ways, I don't even pull them out. Like I don't even use them because I'm so careful about keeping them for a long time. I walk in, and my place wasn't even big enough to be like, "Hey, I'm home. Where are you?" I just don't see her. So I'm like, "What's going on?" I take a few steps in. I look in my bathroom. She's on the floor squeezing every tube of soap into the toilet. And I scream, "What the hell are you doing?" And she's like, "These are bad for you." And she's just flushing down money down the toilet. I don't even know how to react because one, we just kind of met each other. I'm not comfortable yet for me to be like, "What the?" So I'm just kind of shocked and numb. And the turning point for me with all of this, because you come in like a tornado, you changing my diet. I don't have a TV now. The soap's gone. All this crap is happening to me. And passingly, I tell my friend Lauren, she's doing this, and she's doing this, and she's doing this, and she's doing this. And she took a moment and she said, I wish someone cared for me that much. And that was a change for me. I was like, oh, well, I never saw it like that. I just thought she's coming in to like change me, because that's what you always hear about. A woman needs to change a man and things like this. But that gave me a whole different perspective on it. And I love that. And I always think about that. I still miss the TV in my room. We have it now. I don't
But
get
you're
to
not allowed
use
to
it.
wear it. You watch it.
I don't get to watch it. I still have my clones. Don't get to wear them.
And
and
what kind of soap do we have right now?
We have this non-smelling coconut soap, which I actually find great.
Yeah.
So I don't miss much of it.
I'll speak to this. So there's some context. Obviously, I was going through a lot of health issues at the time, and I love to research. And so I was trying to figure out what was going on with my hormones, and I was reading about the effects of fragrance and parabens on your hormones. And obviously, being with you, I didn't want you to be, subject to the ill effects of things like molten brown. And so I really just did an overhaul of all of our products and started to make those changes. It was also the cleaning supplies as well. I don't know if you remember that, but I did start to, because you were using Tide, I did start to kind of slowly remove these things from the house.
Which I will tell you, it's funny because back then I didn't know, like, what's the difference? It's great. It's Tide.
And it works well.
And it works well. It smells great. And now I know, bro, this is really terrible stuff. But I forget about those moments. And so I feel myself being dismissive to people who still use it, thinking, you don't know this? Like, are you insane? What hole have you been living under? A specific bar maker that has got so many terrible ingredients, including ingredients that make you poop out what you just consumed, and not in a good way. And yet people are buying them left and right. Long story short, to each his own. But I think when you do know, you don't want to switch, and you do want to keep those changes that you've implemented, because it is life-threatening.
You can't unknow once you learn these things. But I will say, as much as I was harping on to you about the ill effects of all of these things, I feel like you weren't really listening until you heard it from one of your counterparts. You had to hear it from a Gary Brecker before you really started to believe it.
Definitely. I think there's like this scientific almost study about it, where you have to listen to it something 7 times before it's digestible, whatever it is. Yeah, I think for men especially, and I'm speaking for all of men, obviously, but I think it has to come from a position of someone who you look up to, someone who you possibly see as someone who's, been in that space, been in that world. If I go see a doctor, I want the doctor to tell me he's an athlete, because then he knows how to treat me. And so this guy does. Like, he's like, bro, let me tell you something. This shit's bad. Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe that's right. Because women are more sensitive towards things that sometimes men aren't.
Yes.
And I go back to the food. I wasn't sensitive towards that food. I'm sure it would eventually keep up with me, but you're starting to wear me down. You're starting to wear me down. I think the biggest problem for me was we started then changing the diet. And it went from us and me going to cool restaurants to going to restaurants that everyone was wearing Birkenstocks. And I was like, I hate this. I don't want to be around these people.
Shout out to Cafe Gratitude.
Clutch Cafe Gratitude.
But you had never looked better. You lost a bit of weight, right?
Big time.
I think your skin was like looking better. So it was doing some good.
Yeah, and then you start to see it. So when we would travel, I would always tell you I can spot the vegan in the room, because that person's skin would be glowing from 20 feet away. And so when you then have an appreciation for these people who, again, have to make hard choices, because it's hard to be a vegan, not so much now, and it wasn't later on in LA, but initially it was. And, you go to a place, I can tell you a great story. At the time I was really heavy into cycling, and I become a vegan. And when you're cycling, all you want to do is just consume anything you get your hands on. And getting your hands on something means likely you're stopping at a gas station because you don't have time for anything else. And you can't consume that much ultimately either. You kind of got to get up, get in, get out. And so we're on this really crazy long ride. And I know we have so much more to go. And of course, the boys want to stop at a donut shop. And I'm thinking, oh, there's nothing that I'm going to be able to eat in here. This is going to suck. So I'm pouting. I'm outside. Everyone's already gone in. Happy smiles. And I'm just reluctantly saying to myself, let me just go in. Maybe there's one random shit vegan donut or something like that. And so I go in and I say, and I look at the whole pileup and it's amazing. And there's probably 75 donuts and it looks so good. And I just say to the girl, like, do you have anything here that's vegan? And she goes, oh, darling, everything we make here is vegan. And I was like, it was like the angels singing and separating the curtain of life that just began again. And I was just shocked, like, wow, everything here is vegan. She said, everything here is vegan. It's just a way we decided to do it. And I think that initially as well helped to pave the way for nowhere as well, which we'll get into. But what a concept. How easy. Take an ingredient out. You don't need it. The donuts were insane. Shout out to Donut King in Pasadena. Really
Wasn't
great
it
stuff.
Donut Friend?
Donut Friend, maybe. You can be our sponsor with the right name. But again, going back to the food, like it sucked because I didn't want to be in that environment. And, going out to eat in LA is cool. There's so many beautiful places. You see beautiful people. You're part of the mix. And we didn't have that anymore.
No, and I felt guilty being that person to drag us down. Anytime we went out to dinner, it was either I just shut up and ate it, and then I would pay for it later, or I would sit there and I couldn't really eat anything. So it wasn't fun either way. But yeah, we were both vegan. And part of that was making desserts. I was quote unquote obsessed with dessert. So was Maurizio. But Maurizio loved donuts. They were vegan, but they were still likely not great for you.
Yeah, I think what always wins me over is can I look better from this? Can I feel better from this? Will this help me get to where I want to be, which is ripped, rich, and skinny? All right. So one thing we should note here. At the time that you were traveling, you obviously couldn't work. You start to, think about possibly staying in LA. We were, getting on really well. But you had your own little business, which was cool for me. And I'm like, who's this little skinny girl with like her own business? And you're trying to make it happen in LA. And I thought that was really cool. So tell our one viewer about your business.
Well, which business are you referring to? I had a few.
But the powders.
Okay, yes. The powders started in Melbourne, where I was living. And it came off the back end of the blog I had started. I'd started a vegan blog, as you do, in 2010. And everything I was making were these like superfood filled smoothie bowls and smoothies and raw desserts. And I was buying from the health food store 10 powders, putting them all in this one smoothie. And I was like, there's got to be like a powder that has all this stuff that I can just buy one product of, and it's got all the things that I want for that specific smoothie. And I found it hard to find, and so I created it. It was called Super U Blends, and it had 3 flavors. We had a cacao one with maca and mesquite. We had a green one with hemp protein, spirulina, and then we had a berry one with acai and maqui berry. And I was buying them in bulk, mixing them in my apartment, which I'm sure was not allowed, and hand filling them, selling them online. I think at that time probably Wix was like a website that was available. Made the website and it really went nowhere. I had so much product. I didn't know how to distribute. I didn't know how to wholesale. I just kind of put up the website and thought that like the sales would come, and it was pretty much crickets. But I did bring some product with me from Melbourne to LA to kind of try and get some traction there, but ultimately it just fizzled out.
you're ahead of your time because look what's available now, right? So you had the right idea. Okay, so you have the spirit about you. You're in a place that you can't work, but you need money, and I can only give us so much on a bartender's salary at that point. We agree on one thing that we both love desserts, and we agree that we both are going about it in the wrong way because the desserts that you eat, I think, taste like cardboard. And you know that the desserts I'm eating are eventually going to kill me or give me some kind of cancer or diabetes. You take initiative and say, all right, well, first, I think we really tried to find it. I think we really try to seek out a dessert that we can both consume, right?
Yeah,
We live in LA.
yes, we would love to go to Whole Foods, walk the aisles, try the product.
Oh, yeah. Back in the day, Whole Foods wasn't bought by Amazon.
This felt criminal to me, by the way.
Totally. We should note, one day we were shopping on Whole Foods and this guy is like kind of hovering over our shoulder and he's like looking at what we're looking at, which was I think bars or chocolate or something like that. And we were going back and forth on what we should do. And he goes, you know, Whole Foods doesn't advertise, so you can just eat it. It's part of our business model. You can just try it. And we were like, we can? He was like, yeah. And so I open it right there. Of course, I do it in threes so he can have one because I think that's what really was going on. He really wanted to take a bite. So I split this in threes. Mind you, this was the first out of 100 times we've done this now. We don't do it anymore, but we used to do it all the time. We always snuck it in some way.
It felt like it was wrong.
Because it felt like we were stealing it. Probably were. This guy probably just made up some story and probably been sitting in jail right now. But that's what we would do. And so we would try a lot of things we didn't hate, but it never hit the spot that we were looking for it to hit.
I was always almost like on a mission to find something that you would like. Because my bar was a little lower because I knew that there were certain things I couldn't eat. And so I was into the healthier tasting things, but you definitely weren't. So I would almost be like, oh, can you try this? And you'd be like, disgusting. And it's like, all right, next. And that's when really we found that nothing on the shelves really worked. And so I was making desserts. I had a food blog. And at the time it was the black bean brownies. It was avocado mousse. I put tofu in things.
Avocado mousse slapped.
These were the things that I would spend my days doing because I couldn't work. And so I worked on getting my food blog up and good recipes up. I even made my own birthday cake.
Still do.
Still do. But these kinds of little bits of feedback that I would get from you on a nightly basis really helped to shape the direction of the desserts I would make.
So fast forward to you're doing all this, definitely not a business, definitely not a thought about a business. A buddy of mine kind of catches wind about what you're doing. He has a paleo food company that he delivers food to. People like Bad Bunny, funny enough, at the time. And I think J-Lo was a client. And he says, dude, like there's massive demand for desserts. I see what your girl's doing. Do you think she could do it for me? And so I'm thinking, great, she can get a job. So I ask you, I'm saying, would you be interested in doing this? You say no. And you said no for probably a year.
Yeah, it was more than a year, I think.
It was more than a year. And then I don't know what kind of spawned it or spurred it, whatever that word is, but you were like, ask your friend. Maybe I'll do something now.
I think I remember why.
Tell me.
I had spent the good part of a year and a half on a collagen company. Do you remember that? The collagen?
Right.
New Day.
That's right.
Jeez. Another business failed. Yes. So there was I'm not going to get into weeds here, but there was a company that reached out. They wanted me to create a product, and it was a collagen, and it was positioned around gut health because I was really focused on gut health with social media and, sharing my story of how I healed my gut. Long story short, the business, when we were on vacation, they basically emailed me and said, we're shutting it down. It's not successful enough. And so I felt really lost and defeated and so unsure of like what I wanted to do. And at this point I was allowed to work. So I was 30 and I had no career prospects. I actually applied to be on MasterChef a few months after that. Got through till the last round before basically filming, and then they cut me. And so it was like this kind of like, where do I go now moment. And I remember your friend had that opportunity that I was turning down at the time because I felt like, I think at the time I just didn't have enough bandwidth to do it. And so I was like, you know what? Let's go back to that.
And so I reached out and I said, I think, she's ready now. And he says, come back to me with a few different options. And so you spent the weekend, I think, making all of them.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about this the other day. It was a raw Oreo, a chocolate chip cookie, which is not too dissimilar from what our product is now, a tahini brownie, the Nutter Butter, which turned into the ABC, and I think there was a cheesecake keto brownie. That was the only thing that had dairy, because he did say he wanted something keto.
So you take these over, you go see him, and he tells you.
We sit down in his office and he tries everything, and he's basically like mind blowing. Like, how did you do this? You have to make a business out of this. And I said to him, I was like, I don't know the first thing about launching a food business here. Where do I even start? Where do I make it? And he said, use my kitchen. You can use the corner of my kitchen when my guys are here cooking, and just start from there. Use social media and just start. And that was in January of 2020. This is where I started Nowhere Bakery.
And where was that kitchen?
That was in Costa Mesa, basically the kitchen that we took over and worked out of for the last 6 years. So I remember turning up to the kitchen the first day and feeling so intimidated because I had never been in like one of these big commercial kitchens before. The ovens were different. There were people there cooking. I felt like I was in the way and I didn't want to speak. So I really just sat in my corner and did my thing and kind of like asked to use the ovens when I could, because they were at 450 Fahrenheit for their chicken and I'm having to make it for 300. And so quite a few times I accidentally put cookies in the oven at 450, and you can imagine what happened there. But ultimately we decided on, I think it was like 4 different cookies or whatever.
We're living in West Hollywood.
Living in West Hollywood.
And you got this opportunity now to go and start making desserts, not only for him, but for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking to yourself, well, okay, when am I going to really kind of get my hands on this? What am I going to really offer? How am I going to do my business? What did he tell you?
He didn't give me much else after that. I kind of was left to my own devices. I remember putting 2 cookies in a Tupperware container, posting them on social media saying 2 for $3. Who wants to buy? And then it just started from there.
To your credit, you were starting to, establish yourself as an influencer at a right time when that conversation was in the mythology of LA, right? It was kind of starting to pop up. It was kind of cool. There was a small network of you guys developing, and everyone felt like they were really kind of helping each other.
The product spoke for itself. People, when they tried it, they wanted more. I was posting on social media. I was delivering them to my friends. I remember when the first box that I got for these products, I don't know if you remember this, but they were the pink bakery boxes from like Save Mart or whatever. And any little bit of oil on your fingers would leave a fingerprint.
Yeah.
It drove me nuts. And I would just put these little stickers on the inside of the box, get these paper bags, shove them in the box, and then that's your order.
Yeah.
That was the very start of it.
Okay, well, I think that's the perfect place to stop for episode 1, because now we're going to start to kind of get our hands dirty with the conception, inception, the start of Nowhere. See you soon. Yeah, baby.
Good job to you.